Welcome to profile-based modeling using mesh objects. In this video, you will use the array modifier to repeat a mesh object along the length of a curve. We'll then deform the array using the same curve data, and hopefully end up with some pretty awesome results. So let's go hop on over into Blender. Okay, so over in Blender I'm going to use my Dorsey to demonstrate this next task. So I'm going to need a copy of the archway the archway path. So I'm going to duplicate that whilst I've got it in front of me, and then I am going to rename it. And this is going to be archway array or something along those lines, because we're going to use an array modifier in a moment and we need a control for it. Now I'm going to go into the modifiers tab and remove any modifiers that are associated with the archway array. Make sure that is the one you have selected before just hitting the cross on those. And now we've done that, we need to just, in the data itself for the curve, I'm going to remove the bevel object. Those are the only things that are different. And that should leave us with a single curve moving round. Perfect. So now that we've got the curve itself, we need some mesh data to work with. So there's a couple of ways that we can work from this. I can start from the LOD archway that I've made here, or alternatively I can go backwards and work from the archway profile. I'm going to work from the archway profile in this case, so I'm going to duplicate that, and then I'm going to call that archway array, and from that I'm going to convert it back to a mesh object. We can check that it's a mesh object here. Excellent. I'm going to hop into edit mode, focus down on this area here. I'm going to select it all and fit it in. Then I'm going to grab that face that I've produced and extrude upwards. Now at the moment, yes, snapping is turned on and that's going to cause me potential problems, so I'm going to turn it off. So I don't know how high to make this. In fact, I'm going to go around to the front view so I can get a better idea of scale. I'm quite happy with that. What I do need to do here, however, is turn off my archway path so I can see what I'm doing. Now I'm going to select everything here and duplicate it again while still under the same mesh object, only moving it up in the Z-axis and leaving a little gap to imitate where mortar would go. And I'm going to select these spaces here, and in this case I'm actually just going to pull it like this to make it slightly bigger on the x-axis, zoom around to the front again and just check the relative size. I'm happy with that, and I'm going to come back out into object mode. So now we have our two brickwork pieces that we can work with. We need to first of all apply an array modifier. So I'm going to go across now to the modifiers, go to an array modifier, and first of all we can see it's moving in the x-axis. It's going to want to go in the z-axis, so let's change that first of all. And I'm probably going to want a little bit of a gap there as well to imitate mortar between the blocks themselves. It looks like it's going to be even smaller than that. There we go, that will do for the moment. We can trim it later. So we have fit type. At the moment we've got this fixed count, which is all very well and good, but it'd be good if it just matched the length of the curve that we've produced itself, and we can do that by changing it to fit curve. Okay, that hasn't done what I thought it was going to do, and I think I know why. Just glancing at the scale, I can see it's currently set to 0.1. Now I don't want to just turn that up because it'll get really big, but that means that this is actually a tenth of the size of what it would be in edit mode. So I'm going to go to my object and apply the scale. I should see that then shoot up. I also need to select the curve itself. So if we go to the archway array, that should now be as tall as the curve is long. The next thing we need to do is bend this in direction that the curve is going. So we've got the right length but not the right bend in it yet. So we need to add another modifier called the curve modifier, and it's under the deform column, and it's the fourth one down there. And we need to select a object in which to deform it to, and we're going to call the archway array. Okay, so that's not looking great so far because it's gone off in a random direction and it's deforming in the X direction. Of course, we don't want it to do that. If we click -X, it's going the other way. Click Y, nope. -Y, also no. So let's try Z. Now that's looking much better. But there appears to be a twist going on and it's moved as well. So we need to be careful when doing this that we set things up in the right location. So let's just see, how has that rotated? Quite extremely. It looks like it's rotated, it's inwards this way. So let's go ahead and go to our curve itself. So I want the archway array. The first thing I'm going to try and do here is literally go into edit mode and change the mean tilt. Okay, that appears to move it round, but not quite in the same way that we would expect it to. The other thing that we can try here is moving the actual mesh object itself. Now this will take a bit of playing with, but that's okay because this is quite a powerful tool. I'm going to set the mean tilt back to, well, let's see what happens. We've got 0, 180 goes the other side and has almost the same orientation as if we've reflected it. So I think 270 is going to be the right one, but it folds in on itself. So it's not as straightforward as that. And that, again, is because the curve itself has a rotation to it. And this mean tilt isn't sorting it out because of the other modifiers applied. So what we will need to do here is actually move the piece itself. And that can cause a few problems, because then you lose relative position of where the piece is to where this is. The other thing that we can do is actually generate our own curve. That can solve this particular problem. So we go ahead and in the archway array in edit mode, I'm just going to delete. And that puts it right back here. Now I need to make sure my origin that I'm working from is going to be smack bang in the middle of where we're starting. So that'll be, go into vertex select this object here, select that one, put the 3D cursor over that, and then when we can create our curve, I'm going to do a Bezier curve. Don't rotate it, we're going to just have to move things about. So I'm going to pick the first and end points first of all, and then I can flesh out the rest afterwards. So the beginning point is obviously going to be on this point here, but it's currently halfway along, and the end point is going to be on the other side. So I'm going to turn on vertex snapping. I'm going to move the beginning of the curve. There's lots of things in the way, so what I can do here is start hiding some stuff. So pop out of here, hide that piece there, grab the curve again and put it in the right location, and I'm going to do the same with the other end of it, and that should align things how I want them to be. Perfect. Now we just need to grab these handles and position them in an appropriate location, and the same with this one and this one. Okay, so I'm just going to check here that the coordinates, by looking at them, make sense. They have different Z values, that's fine. We've got a curve moving across. Let's work with that for the moment. And we've got a Bezier curve here, so we need to change the archway array mesh data, which is currently hidden, and change the array to the Bezier curve that we've made, so it's the right length. So it's a lot shorter now because this curve is a lot shorter, and we can change the curve deformation to the Bezier curve as well, and that is already much better. So we're not having to deal with trying to fix a curve, rather just remake one based upon the actual archway itself. Now that we've got these pieces here, we see they are still tilted the wrong way around, so we need to go into the curve properties by selecting the Bezier curve, hopping into edit mode, and the first thing, as always, I'm going to try mean tilt, rotating it round the right way. So it's going to be something along those lines, again about 270 or minus 90 of course. That is looking pretty good. I think it is actually 90 looking at these. Of course, I can move the curve at this point in order to put things in more, a better location. So at this point, the curve is there. I can drag it forward slightly and put it in the right place on this side. Again, with snapping turned on, that can be a little bit problematic. So it's going to need to be approximately there. So that is looking pretty good. It just needs to be the right size. So we can hop back into the Bezier curve itself and keep editing that until it's the right size. And of course what we can do now is change the resolution of this curve so it's low enough to just snap to these points going through our model. So in that case we go to the curve properties and change the resolution. If we don't do that, it tries to interpolate between those control points and you end up with a very wiggly line. So in this case we'd want to lower the resolution down to 1, and we've only got one control point at the moment. So we need another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So I'm going to subdivide that, and the number of cuts will be, let's see, there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I can now align the control points, not the handle, but the control points themselves, with the appropriate place on the model. Now, at the moment, I'm not sure they are in the right place at all, so I'm going to select them all, and the Y coordinate here needs to be level with this wall in order to get this snapping right, otherwise we'll end up twisting. So let's just make sure that we move the whole lot in 1. Let's go ahead and move whilst it's locked to a face, so we'll lock it to this face here. So, not there. We want to fill that in, undo that, let's move it, locking it to the Y axis onto this face, that's good. Now we can go about grabbing these control points whilst it's snapping to the vertex and literally just move them to the appropriate location. Now you can see at the moment it's going really crazy, and that's because it's trying to snap to itself. But as it's trying to snap to itself, the geometry is changing, so it goes all over the place. There's a couple of ways we can deal with that. We can go ahead and turn self-snapping off, which is this little toggle to the right of where it says closest, or indeed is turn the geometry off itself, because we're only editing the curve. In this case it is a lot easier to just remove the array from the scene by hiding it, and then we can move things without it going really crazy. Now I'm going to grab these other control points and quickly pop them in position. Okay, so that's the last control point in position. I can turn the array back on, and there we go, that's starting to look pretty sweet. Now I'll just demonstrate what I meant about the resolution. If you set it too high, it starts to try and interpolate between the points with extra bends, and we don't want that. As you can see, it starts moving things around. In fact, in this case, it starts to twist around as well. Now the great thing is we've got complete control over where these things are placed, and that's turned out actually much better than I thought it was going to turn out. If you hop into object mode there's a really nice level of detail throughout the entire archway. Should probably turn smooth shading on. Not sure I like the smooth shading on here. I think I need to define some of the edges a bit better before I go ahead and do that. I'm going to leave it on flat as it was a nice bit of chiseled rock. Okay guys, it's challenge time. I'd like you to create curve-driven mesh objects. So this is an incredibly powerful tool set, however it can be confusing and a little frustrating, so we really need to nail this. What else do you think? What could you use this method for? I can think I'm going to throw one in there straight away. A wobbly path winding through a woodland, something along those lines. A brick path, obviously. Maybe even the yellow brick road, who knows? So go ahead and add some more detail to your other models using this technique. Pause the video now and give that a go. Okay guys, welcome back. Let's hop back on over into Blender. Hey, welcome back. So let's have a look at making this window a bit more interesting. So I'm going to borrow the curve that we've used to generate and the profile to make a basic brick that we can use in our model. So let's go ahead and duplicate that curve down there, and I'm going to convert that straight away to a mesh. Let's get the curve that's going on here. Let's duplicate. Oh, that's a different curve. We don't want to keep duplicating it. Let's get rid of that. I did duplicate it in that case. But where's the, there we go, the path itself. That's what I want. So let's duplicate that as well. And I'm going to call that array. And do some renaming later. And I'm going to call this array profile. Okay, now we've got those two parts enabled. We just need to make sure that the array isn't causing us any problems and hide these other two so we know what we're working on. So let's go to this profile itself and hop into edit mode, select the edge loop, fill, and then extrude up ever so slightly. I'm going to make these bricks quite thin so we can have a lot of them. And once I've done that, we just need to set it following the path. So we're going to need an array modifier and set its fit type to fit a curve, and we want it going in the Z direction. And in this particular case, what I can do is Z relative offset by 1. I could actually bevel the edge just here so that when they join together, not B, but Control and B, when they actually join together, I'm not sure if I've got enough fine control over this at the moment, so I need to zoom in a bit more. But when they join together, these will actually have some natural gaps between them. Okay, so now that is done, let's hop back into the modifiers and do the curve deform using the same curve. Now, it's not happening at the moment, and I'm guessing it's a scale problem going on again. So let's just have a look at the transform properties. Yes, so let's apply the scale. Back up here, something still isn't working properly. Let's have a look at the array and turn the curve off. Let's do one thing at a time. There should be lots of those. I haven't assigned the array itself, the curve object to the array. Now let's go back on to deform and see whether or not we need to generate our own curve. Yes, we do. So let's go ahead and create a Bezier curve that will follow this path. Fortunately, I already have the origin in the right place, so here I can move the cursor to the selected, because that will move it over there. We can add ourselves a Bezier curve and start moving control points about. And whilst I'm doing that, I will fast forward the video. I'm going to remember here to set my resolution down at 1. And now that the curve is complete, I should be able to go back to my array profile and change the properties here in the modifiers to follow the new Bezier curve. Okay, that's looking a bit, it's looking kind of right, but kind of funny as well. I think what's going on here is something gone wrong with the curve itself. Let's have a look at that Bezier curve in more detail. I think it's probably these control points. Yes, it is. So I'm just going to turn off self-snapping and snap it to the same point there. And that should bring it back round to looking decent. Yeah, that's looking pretty sweet now. That's really good. I like the way that that's come out. I think it's probably a little thick, but we can always obviously modify. Okay, there's a bit of rotation going on here. You can see that's not the profile I'm looking for. Let's highlight everything and mean tilt. Last time it was 270 or 100 or minus 90, and that looks spot on. There's a couple of other things I'd want to do here. There's some odd stuff going on. Is that a rendering artifact or something else going on? I might have crossed something over at some point. It being a rendering artifact wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing. I think that looks pretty cool. I can investigate later on as to what's going on there. How are your archways and how's the rest of your building coming on? I'd love to see your results. Please remember to share in the discussions, and I will see you guys in the next lecture.